Well, you look at even American food compared to like when we were in Europe this past summer, and they have rules and regulations concerning food, and we have things in our food here in America that even these foreign countries won't even allow. I mean, it's crazy. Do you think that we have time in this window to clean up some of that?
Well, I'm what I call the eternal optimist. I think as Christians we should be. And I think that what we're talking about here is not just biblical issues regarding the Antichrist kingdom, prophecy-related issues, but to me they're moral issues. And the moral issue is if in fact people are being murdered, hurt, or harmed, I am obligated as a Christian to speak up. If I am obligated to speak up about children being murdered in a womb, and rightly so, we don't even sneeze at that one, abortion, then why do I not have as much energy when people are being murdered, hurt, and harmed outside the womb?
It's the same thing with talking about COVID. Like, we did that in 2020, 2021, and we spoke out and gave truths from doctors that were being censored. And now all that has come out to be true. And how many injured people do we have around the world? And how many people died because they didn't get the treatment that was available?
Well, that, and for those that took their alternative, if you've noticed, it's starting to come out. They're saying that the next wave is coming, unfortunately. And then speaking of next wave, we also demonstrate this. What's the latest thing? Bird flu scare.
But people are not falling for it this time.
Right, and praise God for that.
Americans are not, and people around the world are not falling for it. We're not doing this again.
Right, well, thank you very much, and we shouldn't, and we need to speak up and speak out. But again, believe it or not, Bill Gates is behind that. He's already warned that they're working on another one, catastrophic contagion. They're doing a dry one, just like they did last time with Event 201. But here's my point. He's been doing his dry run using the bird flu as a scare for the next pandemic in Africa for quite some time. And I'll explain again how he did that. He went down to Africa and they were releasing the bird flu. And then under bird flu, they said, well, we just got to annihilate all the chickens, right? What they've been trying to do here. But that's coming from Bill Gates. And so you're like, why would he do that? Why would he come up with this bird flu thing and kill off all their chickens? Make money, murder people. Because he has created a genetically modified chicken that he owns the patents on, so he's gonna make money. And then that becomes the new and improved acceptable food. But then he gets double bank because those genetically modified chickens have to have vaccines, which he owns the patents on. And so he uses the bird flu scare, and is doing it right now as we speak, in Africa to annihilate their meat crop, chickens, to replace it with his genetically modified chickens.
And of course, eggs would be affected.
Everything, Joni.
We're already seeing that.
Right.
That's crazy.
We have another kind of shadow character who probably is more aware of what he's actually doing. That's George.
And he's getting old, though.
Yeah, George. I mean, the Soros and all that. Talk about.
Is the sun going to come up and?
Because he's actually barred from some nations. Like
he's got his dirty grubs in 120 different countries, guys. This is what he's up to, and he does have what I call a backup plan. It's his son Alex, and if you've seen in print and in interviews, he actually says he's an even bigger leftist liberal than his dad. In other words, you ain't seen nothing yet.
So these guys are not smart enough. Obviously, they're smart. They're not smart enough to plan and plot a lot of this. We have to understand there is a spirit behind this, and that is what you talk about in the book. It is the spirit of the Antichrist that is driving, because that's what the enemy wants to do, right? Is murder people, and destroy people.
Exactly, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Destroy, right?
And that's Jesus, John chapter 8. He gives us two very important characteristics of Satan himself. And so to me, when you emulate those characteristics, that tells us who you're working for. And he said right there in John chapter 8 that Satan is a liar and the father of all lies. So any lie ultimately is satanically inspired, even though we may not. But he says there's another thing. And he's a murderer, and he's been there from the beginning. This murderous spirit is clearly coming from Satan, and that's why Jesus said from the beginning. He's referring to Adam and Eve. When Satan tempted Adam and Eve to rebel against God, to do what God said not to do, it wasn't just about, oh, it messed up their relationship with God. No, no, no. He knew that the moment they did it,
they were dead.
Bingo. And that's why Jesus said he's a murderer. He did it because he knew it was going to kill him.
You know, in some of these rallies, there was someone that did a study of the cell phones that were recognized in each of these different states and rallies. And so many times it would show up that the very same people were possibly being paid to show up, and that Soros would be behind a lot of this. Remember the one where they were protesting and had all the tents that were all the
tents
same
were bought
color?
at the same place.
They were it's like someone had given them that.
Yeah.
So what?
It was the demonstrations, the college anti-Semitic demonstrations.
Yeah.
They had the same tents everywhere.
So is he behind a lot of that? I mean, in your research, what have you found? He is the great disruptor for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I call him the disruptor elite. Bill Gates is the depopulation elite. He's the disruptor, and that's his modus of operandi. He makes money off the back of suffering of other people. And what he does is he deliberately goes into countries, not just America, and he's at it again in this next administration with Trump. And he profits off of this. This is how he makes his money. And he goes into an area and he creates chaos on purpose. He pays for it to happen. By the way, he was the one who paid for the bricks to be delivered, back with Black Lives Matter, Antifa. Remember that junk that was going on? Yeah, so it's like, how did pallets of bricks show up just in time for people throwing windows? Yeah, it's all paid for. But anyway, here's my point. So when he goes into an area, including a country, and he can foment chaos, then it has an effect on the markets. It has an effect on the economy. And so he runs with it, and decimates an area, an economy, a market until it goes down low.
Buy low.
Bingo. What's he do?
Sell high.
He backs off, things go up, and he sells high. And we saw this pattern of behavior in the 90s. In fact, he's been called the man who broke the Bank of England. And he deliberately, and this is in print, and he even admits it, we have it on tape, that he went in and deliberately manipulated the market in England over there, and which, again, on the back of people suffering. People lost their jobs, they lost their lives. He don't care, and he literally says, I have no remorse. I'm here to make money. And so he literally drove down the market, and when it was low,
bought it up.
He bought it, and he made $1 billion off of that market manipulation on the backs of suffering.
Wow.
And I'll talk about artificial intelligence. I mean, because that's our generations. Some of this stuff has existed before, but artificial intelligence is kind of a different general in this army, so to speak.
Yes. And I'll say this, I believe that the development of artificial intelligence is just as huge of a watershed moment, prophetic watershed moment, as when Israel became a nation in 1948.
Yeah, probably so.
And the reason why is because you can't have a 7-year tribulation without the Jewish people. Well, they've been scattered since 70 AD. Well, they're back. That's why it was a big moment. You cannot have a Revelation 13 scenario of the Antichrist when he controls the whole economy, the governments, people's buying and selling. He literally micromanages the planet. He creates a big brother society. You can't hire enough people to run the back end of that system. We've had computers, we've had satellites, but you can't hire enough people for that. You need something superhuman, Doug. I wonder what that's going to be. It's called AI. It's superhuman. For the first time in mankind's history, we have the ability to micromanage the planet, like Revelation 13 says, just in time for the Antichrist. And it's not just a theory that they're going to use the AI. They already are implementing AI in every single one of those arenas.
Wow.
And again, some of the people in there aren't doing it with ill intent.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when this Antichrist person who has a team already built up demonically comes into place, he brings those things that exist into benefit
That technology,
him.
yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we're not trying to demonize some of the people that are involved in this, but we look at through wisdom and we go, wait a minute, that could lead to this.
Right.
And we can't stop it because, you can't stop cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
But that could be used to have a world economy.
Yeah.
And it'd also be really helpful if it's connected to a chip. Right? So these things interconnect.